Okay, that's perfect. I just hit that 4-iron 224 yards, and I can't believe it. On today's episode of the Miracle Swing, I'm going to compare my Hogan Icon irons to the TaylorMade P790. This is incredible. Hey there, Miracle Swingers. I've got a really great episode for you today where I'm going to be talking about clubs. Now, if you've been following my swing evolution, you're probably aware that I've called game improvement clubs actually the opposite of what they're labeled to be. When I started my swing evolution, I left behind these huge game improvement clubs and I went for blades. And I feel blades were game improvement irons because they made me focus more narrowly and I had to hit a cleaner strike with each club. I couldn't get loose with it and still get away with it. Well, after 14 years of playing blades, I did something that I've never done before during the whole course of my evolution. And I went out and I picked up these used TaylorMade P790s, okay, because really a lot of my friends, they hit their irons 2 clubs farther than I do, even though we hit our drivers about the same distance. Now, a friend of mine who's a professional told me, he goes, Chris, it's because my clubs are souped up and you're still playing those old school blades. Now we can talk about the strength of the lofts getting stronger through the years. We can talk about them making the shafts a little bit longer. But really my curiosity today is about the face and the head of the club, because if you've ever chipped with a hybrid, you'll notice that that ball comes off hot, or if you've chipped with a fairway wood. And I wonder if they've gotten some of that technology into these irons. So what I have is this TaylorMade P790 8-iron, and I have this Hogan Icon 8-iron, and this is the club that I've been playing for the last 4 years. I absolutely love it, super solid. And if I set them both down on the ground, wow, remarkably, my Ben Hogan is like 1/4 to a 1/2 inch longer. That's the first thing that I'm surprised to see. But what I want to do is I want to measure these clubs against one another so I can see what the distances are. I'm curious to see, is it true that these TaylorMades are going to go further than my irons? Now, just for reference, my pitching wedge, I normally play it about 125 yards. I play my 8-iron around 150. My 7-iron is my 165 club. And my 5-iron, I play from 185. My 4-iron is my 200-yard club. You know, obviously at that distance, you know, there's more variation. But I'm really curious to see what the distances are with these, so I brought my swing caddy out today to give me some numbers, and I'm curious to compare the flight. So say I'm 185 yards out and I hit my 5-iron, that's going to be a pretty piercing shot. But if I hit a TaylorMade club, let's just say for example it's a 7-iron and that goes 185 and it comes in higher and lands softer, that might be something that could benefit my golf game. So let's get to the test. So I've got my swing caddy launch monitor here. I'll set it to pitching wedge. Okay, I think I'm warm enough to hit some of these wedges. Let's see what it's got under the hood. That's exactly my distance, 125. That was a well-struck ball straight at my target. All right, so that's 127. It's a very solid hit. $125. So I'll take the average of my 3 best swings here. We'll see what they wind up being. The average distance of my Hogan Icon pitching wedge was 125.6 yards.
Right, so here I've got my P790 TaylorMade. I have no idea what I'm in for. It looks like it's got a lot of loft. I think it's 45 degrees, which is the same as mine. Once again, my Hogan is maybe a 1/4 inch longer. That could be the different grip. Wow, so I've never hit a 145-yard pitching wedge on the range. That's kind of a shocker.
The average distance of my TaylorMade pitching wedge was 140.3 yards, making a difference of 14.7 yards. That's incredible.
Okay guys, now I've got my Hogan Icon 8-iron and my P790 8-iron. We're gonna test these two against one another. First ball, 150 yards. So that's the whole goal, is to know how far the club is gonna fly. And I've always said that it doesn't matter what that distance is. Don't let your ego get into it, just as long as you know what that number is. That's what's important. Number 2, exactly on the number, 150. Woo, little jumper, 154.9. I'll call that 155.
The average distance for my Hogan Icon 8-iron was 151.6 yards.
Once again, I'm going to check the length of these guys. The Hogan is 1/4 inch longer. $159. All right, another one, 163. That felt solid.
The average distance of my TaylorMade 8-iron was 161.6 yards. The TaylorMade averaged 10 yards further.
There's definitely a little bit of a distance gain. Now I'm curious to check out the 7-iron. Once again, this Hogan 7-iron is a half an inch at least longer. That's kind of crazy. Okay, that felt good. All right, so that was 167. Okay, that was 163. Pretty much on my number. Okay, 164 yards. Those are all right around my number that I expect, which is 165.
The average distance of my Hogan Icon 7-iron was 164.6 yards.
Let's see a 7-iron. Let's see what happens here. The one thing I notice is it's definitely lighter than my Hogan. Granted, I put lead tape on my Hogans. Let's see if I can put a smooth move on this iron. Okay, so that was a smooth swing, not trying to gas it or do anything crazy. And that's 173. Definitely longer than I've ever hit a 7-iron before. Hey, that just took off. Wonder what that is. 176 yards. But this is just nuts. That's a 188-yard 7-iron. I've never done that in my life. Whoa.
The average distance of my TaylorMade 7-iron was 179 yards, making a total difference of 14.4 yards.
Alright, so I tell myself my 185 club is this 5-iron. And let's see what the numbers are today. The thing is, when I get to a 5-iron, there is this mental thing that you got to do a little bit more, be a little more special, but really I want to swing it like a 7-iron. That's what Jack Nicklaus said about his 1-iron. You know, let's hit some of these 5-irons out there and just see what the numbers are. All right, that was 189. That's a pretty good ball right out of the gate. Okay, that's a pretty good feeling strike right there with this blade. 188 yards. Nothing to complain about there. All right, 193-yard 5-iron.
The average distance of my Hogan Icon 5-iron is 190 yards.
That's pretty good. I guess I hit this 5-iron a little bit further than I expect, but with these longer clubs, I don't plan on hitting it 100% every time. I'm really curious to see what happens with this TaylorMade P790. Yards right out of the gate. 205 yards. That's 20 yards farther than I play my regular 5-iron. I am feeling like this TaylorMade feels a little easier to hit, almost the way a hybrid feels easier to hit than a regular long iron. .208 yards with a 5-iron. This is new territory for me. That's nuts. That's pure. 207. Those are all good balls right there.
The average distance of my TaylorMade 5-iron came out to be 206.6 yards, making a whopping difference of 16.6 yards between the two 5-irons.
Okay, the last club in my bag that we're going to test is this 4-iron Hogan blade. It's a butter knife compared to this TaylorMade 4-iron that has a wider sole and this little rubber groove here. I guess that's part of the springiness of the face, but we're going to test them both and see what the numbers are. So if you look at this club, it's pretty darn narrow. And I've got lead tape on the back of it, and I'm proud when I hit a good shot with this club, but I wouldn't call it confidence inspiring. $205 yards on that one. .209, so that is about as good as I'll hit a 4-iron. That is nice and smooth, wasn't rushed, I wasn't trying to hit it hard. Whew, 216.
The average distance of my Hogan Icon 4-iron is 210 yards.
All right, 210. So those are some pretty good numbers for me. I'm actually imagining that I don't hit this 4-iron as far as I actually do. But guys, I'm going to tell you, this TaylorMade 4-iron is a full inch shorter, 1 inch shorter than this Hogan 4-iron, which is kind of a shocker to me. So let's see what the difference is. Okay, that's perfect. I just hit that 4-iron 224 yards, and I can't believe it. .223. Here's my last ball.
The average distance of my TaylorMade 4-iron turned out to be 221.7 yards, making a total difference of 11.7 yards. That's significant. The TaylorMade P790s turned out to be on average 13.5 yards longer than my Hogan Icon irons. With numbers like these, I have to try them in the bag.
So guys, at the end of the day, it is true that these modern distance irons are a lot longer than a regular blade iron, and I didn't think that it mattered as long as you know what the distances are. Obviously, I really know the distances on these irons. The blades had less dispersion, like distance between the longest and the shortest shots. But I wonder, you know, if this extra distance is going to make it a little bit easier to play these longer courses that I'm playing nowadays. So I think if you're looking for more distance, you definitely need to check out the TaylorMade P790. This is the longest golf club I've ever hit in my life.
Guys, I've created the biggest controversy in modern golf by insisting swinging over the top is the best way to swing a golf club. Bobby Jones, Sam Snead, and Arnold Palmer all swung over the top. So I want to send you 3
free lesson videos that will teach you the over-the-top miracle swing that I teach my students.
I shot a 72 with Balboa. It feels like you can't miss.